welcome to Comics and Ramblings with Aru. This is just me, talking about comics, talking about toys, talking about TV, entertainment, the whole shebang. As someone who's been in this part of this sort of pop culture thing, since I was 11 or something, since I moved into New Zealand and had my first fell in love with 2000 AD with Tintin with Asterix, which I had never ever heard of before in my life until I came to New Zealand. And so since then, I've experienced the joys of being, the amazing creativity that's out there and the amazing stuff that, original creators of those things bring to us. As yesterday I talked about the race swapping of my one of my favorite characters, the Sentry, and of course, as I'm used to, and as anybody who's ever been into a comic shop is used to, is that you like something, you don't like something, you discuss it, and you go away going, I wonder if he's right or if he's wrong, and think about it at night. So when I put out a thought saying, hey, I like to have my original characters be original, and I like to have my ethnic characters being promoted, right? So if you've got a black Captain Marvel, put that out first, not about 5 years later or something, if the original Captain Marvel, right? And something like that. Or if you have a Black Panther, then you go and do Black Panther. If you have a Falcon, keep him as Falcon. Don't go and change him, give him like another mantle that's worn by somebody else, specifically a white character, because then you're diminishing the originality and the creativity that comes with Falcon, who I happen to have here, like a couple of them. Here we go. Let me just bring them over, right? This is the way the original original Falcon looked. Got his eagle and everything on there, and it's just amazing, to see all this stuff out that was created by amazing talent back in the day. That for a very specific reason, to promote actual ethnic inclusivity and diversity, real diversity and inclusivity, giving him his own characteristics, his own gimmick, his own costume, his own style, his own finesse, something that makes him him. Not go, okay, you know what, we'll just take him and now we'll make him into Captain America, because unless he's Captain America, nobody will like him. But the problem there is that we already love Falcon, right? Eagle wanted to go fly, right? So we already love Falcon. I mean, is it Roby? I can't remember. Or these guys, like, I've had too many head injuries to remember specific names and stuff. But so, we've got the other one down there, and he's got this new costume, and everything's beautiful about him because it's a great design. So why do you want to go and now he's Captain America? The problem now we have is people who we could kind of like talk with before in the past, like in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, you could actually discuss these things and you go away wiser, and you go, okay, yeah, you're right or you're wrong, but that's okay, we can get along. Now it's like, well, you can't speak about it. If you do not like Captain, if you do not like Falcon to stay Falcon, well, then you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're homophobe, and you're misogynist, or whatever they can come up with, which in itself, it's kind of like hiding behind, a costume of I am a better person because I accuse you of something that isn't real. Much like much like this lady here. I've talked about this with, let me find this share with Nia DaCosta, right? I talked with this with a writer, amazing sci-fi writer, graphic novelist, creator, filmmaker, right? In the weekend on Sunday, Jeffrey Morris. The second time I actually talked to him, the first time we talked about his Kickstarter and his documentary. This time we spent actually about 45 minutes just on this topic of how condescending it is that if you are a failure at your job, the only excuse you can make is accuse and blame other people. And you know, you guys who watch that, like, you know, it's really worthwhile watching. Jeffrey Morris is an amazing talent, you know, and you know, and by the way, he's a black dude, right? And so having the discussion, and it was like the first time we actually, you know, really opened up, you know, really talked, you know, back to back about that subject. And, you know, I said to him, look, you know, these guys, when they fail at their job, that's all they have to say for it. When I fail at my job, I own it, right? I talked about how Incredi-Girl, when I first put it out, it took me about, you know, when I first wrote it, it was like about 2007 when I started it. 2011, I got some artwork done on it. And then I think last year we actually printed it as a, you know, after the 2 issues were online, as a web comic on plungecomics.com, right? You go under like online comics or web comics on the button and you'll find it there. But so I put it out as a weekly comic, all right, a page a week kind of thing. And it looked, you know, it works as a web comic, because when people come to read a, you know, a page of comic book, you know, you want to keep them there for a bit, you know, give them something more than just 1, 2, 3 sentences, right? Like they're doing Marvel Comics right now or DC Comics. Most of it's just, you know, art and like a couple of sentences, and it's like that's your 15 minutes or 10 minutes of reading done. But when it comes to web comics, you can, it's a bit like writing a TV show, you know, like an 8-episode rather than a 2-hour movie. You got 8 hours to explain in-depth stuff about the characters and so on. So in the web comic, I was able to explain the background and the history of what happened to bring these orphans to become orphans, right? About the Ceausescu communism era, you know, in Romania, how all these babies and young children lost their parents because of communism, right? Under like dictatorship of Ceausescu. I could tell you that in that webcomic, so there was a lot more information. Now, when I then went and did the same thing as a as a print comic, you know, it kind of, I mean, you know, it kind of didn't work the same way. It had too much words, you know, I was like putting too much information, you know, and as a page, and I've, you know, the comment came in, like, you know, let me just put this away so you can see a bigger version. So you had like lots of words, right? And the artwork, I wasn't even happy with the artwork. But of course, I printed it thinking that, hey, it's going to sell. It's going to be great. I love this character. It's like it's the original first attempt at myself making a superhero comic book for all ages. And I did it for my niece, right? So it was a family affair. My brother-in-law actually named the character. My niece kind of named it. And then like we finished it. From Incredible Girl to Incredi-Girl, with my you know, with my brother-in-law coming in and saying that. So we ended up having a really cool looking cover by my amazing artist friend Shane Evans, who's basically, you know, who's doing a series called Chronicles of Wasteland. Right, this is issue 1. He's got issue 2's coming, is already out. Is almost sold. From what I hear, it's like almost sold. Right, numbers sold really well because everybody loved the first issue, and he's a great artist. And it's a great little book, right? And it's only in New Zealand, right? He only put it out in New Zealand, and it's almost sold out. And I'll just ask them to put to your side so I don't miss out. So, but then when I went and printed, I spent my own money, right? Nobody else's money, my own money, right? And then we went and sold it. We sold about 12 issues at the convention at Plunge last year. And I came away going, people were saying, hey, look, it's too many words. And then I looked at it again and said, like, yeah, even the art is not that great. I mean, it's my art. And it's like, how can I put this on the same shelf next to a Marvel or DC comic? Would I be proud to do that? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't be proud to do that. I had to question myself. So it was my failure, right? So I spent $500 on something that I believe is a failure. But of course, now, because it's the first time it went out, and it's the web comic, not the superhero comic that you see that's released with all the amazing art and the colors, everything. This now is a, you know, a collector's item. So I've got something like about 40 or 50 of them left with the different, you know, one-off covers that I did. But I took the blame for that. I accepted it was my mistake. I should have really looked into it and really questioned everything about it. And should have went to my friends and said, what do you think? Is it going to work first? How is it? But, you know, I didn't, because I felt that I'd worked so hard over 15 odd years on this book, and I finally wanted to get it out. We had good numbers on it for the webcomic. We had about 50 people, 45, 50 people every week reading the webcomic for the last 2 years. So that meant that every week somebody was there reading it. 40 people were coming up every time, every week. So I thought, yeah, okay, the numbers are there, but I decided, we took it to, because it was going to be on Kickstarter, right? And I pulled it off. Even though I printed it, I pulled it off. I said, no, I'm going to cancel this because I'm not happy. Now I'm going to go back to the start, rewrite the script, challenge myself, not really change what the story is about, but rewrite it where it's punchy, right? Like boom, boom, this happens, this happens, this happens. Give some expose, this happens. Introduce these characters, this happens. And as an origin, kind of like it was more like this is the character showing up for the first time. But what it meant was that you could still go onto the web, onto plungecomics.com, and you could go onto the webcomics button down, read the 2 issues that are already there. I don't remove that to hide what I'd read. It's still there. It's a hard work, We put a lot of work into it. My Burback from England, way back in 2011, 10, worked with me to do the anime style, manga style artwork on it. It's kind of like cartoony art style, right? And I appreciate that because we spent so much hard time working on that. However, when we started working with Kevin and Zimmerman, I loved his work, and straight away we hit it off, and we did great work on it. Then we had, the letter, the character designs, everything. I redesigned the costume with a friend, right? I went in and we just like, how cool would it, let's change it and update it a bit so that it's like more modern. So the story is a bit more modern. The character looks a bit more modern. The costume's a bit more modern, but we still have the same look, right? The colors are the same. You still have the beautiful red hair, because I love red hair. I think it's very unique, and there isn't that many people in the world with red hair. And so I thought that'll be cool. And if it was up to me, I would have at least every character, one of every character in any of my books with red hair. But that's overkill, right? But so I accepted the blame. I redid it. We went back to Kickstarter with a new comic book, with the new covers, with new colors, with Hugo Quinn. Did amazing work on it. And it's going to be sent out to everybody in February, right? Everybody that backed it, and then we'll release the next issue, and then we'll add. People can still buy the first issue if they want, right? If they realize that they missed out on the first issue, they can come back and get the first issue. But I accepted the blame, right, for my failure. However, I find it interesting that these people here, who should accept blame for their destruction of these, these $100 million projects, right? 300, 250, 200 million, $150 million projects, don't want to accept that. See, at the end of the day, the fan and the customer is going to be always right. However, there's always going to be fans who shill, right, for people like this. They will always shill for the mega corporation that owes them absolutely nothing, but they want their money. See, here I am back in 2000, read the comics that I showed the other day, which I have, and paid 2-3 times the amount for the variant covers. And I'm looking forward. I mean, my price, once that Asian, when Stephen Ewan, that in Thunderbolts comes out, and he's a new Sentry, my prizes for my comics and these toys will skyrocket. However, that doesn't make me happy, right? Just because they are now more valuable doesn't make me happy. It makes me feel sad because you didn't give me what you promised me. So it's a big, huge bait and switch, right? It's like telling me, here's meat, but then giving me beans, right? Mock meat, fake meat. I don't want fake Sentry. I want real Sentry. The Sentry I went and paid money to buy. The Sentry I invested my time and energy in, right? Century I told people about in my store. I said, this is Century, right? Buy this comic and then, you know, you'll learn about Century, this amazing character that they created, who they bait and switched, of course, about this whole thing. But that made it interesting, right? If you look at the history of Century, there's enough videos out there. You can just, you know, I think What Mojo or something like that has it all. And there's enough people who have talked about Century for you to just, you know, Google on, not Google, but just search on YouTube and find. I don't need to rehash that for you because, you know, those guys have already spent the time doing that. But if I'm spending time and my hard-earned money, right, at a time when I, you know, I had just gotten back into comics after a 5-year break of losing my first collection, right? My first run of mint collection X-Men, mint collection freaking X-Force, right? New Mutants, all those ones that are now worth thousands and thousands of dollars, all those comics that I lost in my first collection. And then I come back and go in 2003 to, I decided, you know what? I miss comics. I'm going to go back into comics. You know, I'd like to get back into reading what I've missed for the last half decade. After getting over my sadness of having lost it all in the fire and having lost it, you know, my favorite issues, like having lost the first appearance of freaking Deadpool, right? And then having to buy it over again. But, you know, and it's like, and then being told now that you're a misogynist, you're a racist because guess what? You don't accept an Asian character, you know, person playing a white dude. It's just like this lady here pretend, you know, she knows she's lying, right? She knows that none of the women went to see the Marvels. Like, can you imagine that females didn't even go to see the Marvels, right? Young girls that they're really propped up try to go, they didn't even go to see the Marvels. So why are the males always the targets of this sort of rhetoric, right? You know, or misogyny. What about misandry? Why aren't you calling all these women that didn't go to support your Marvels 3 woman-led film of 3 ethnic people, you know, a black lady, a white lady, and a Pakistani, I guess. I'm not sure. She's Indian, you know. And so, but they're not misandry. You know, misandry, if you don't know, that's the opposite of, you know, that's a female version of misogynist. So how come they're not called racist and misandries for not supporting the Marvels, right? So why is it always the males that are target of this? But the worst thing is there are also males who actually target males who say, hey, I don't accept this. The time I've spent and energy and money, you know, I don't accept you changing the character, right? Because it only goes one way, right? The replacement theory, right? So replace the white dude, right? Replace the white lady, so on. Replace the redhead, right? It's only that way. It's not the other way, right? So it's getting to a point where I just go, what is the point of you shilling for a multi-billion-dollar company who is using you to actually attack each other rather than ask, can we please have Stephen Ewan, an Asian Korean, you know, Korean dude, American, whatever, play an Asian role that's already there in a character? Why is it so hard to accept that? I want that guy to play what that character is. But why is it so hard to accept that? I want Falcon to be Falcon. I don't want him to be Captain America because I like Falcon. He's got his own thing. Why does he have to swap his mantle, right? And so I find that really, you know, sad because in the old days we'd be, you know, chewing this over and talking to each other in comic books stores, but now there's hardly any comic book stores because nobody buys comics in the mainstream anymore. Like even right? I stopped buying comics and I went to like 1 a month to a point where I'm like buying none a month now. I've got a delivery, I've got to collect soon, you know, send off some money and say, hey, send us. I don't even want to spend $4 on a comic book, right? Just so I can get my parcel. But I'm like, I am going to, because that's the only way I can like get all my, you know, my stuff couriered to me. I got to pay, $11 for the courier. I got to pay $4 for another comic. So that's $15, $18 out. So, however, the only thing that sells comics now is the covers, right? I'll go out of my way just to buy the cover, and then I'll shove it in a freaking plastic, you know, right? So I'll shove it in a friggin', you know, this is actually a good comic from the old days, which actually worked, right? Evangeline. Let me find something here. Gosh, there's a whole box of them. And oh, let me see. Right. So I will just buy, you know, a comic for the gimmick it's inside. Right. This black cover of, I think this is where, what's her name? They kill off the person that they just put in the movie. Right. Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. Right. You know, and so that's the only reason I bought that. You know, let me see what else we got here. I got Big Game here. That's probably the only one that I actually invested any money in right now, because I heard it was going to be a good comic from people who actually read and query comics, right? So haven't even had time to read. However, I had, you know, got messed up in my ordering, and so now I don't get issue 3. So I just said, you know what, can't even be bothered getting 4 and 5 or look to get 3. I'll just stick with the number 1 and 2. You know, because at the end of the day, why should I go out of my way to spend money, right, on stuff I don't like, right? So I bought this just for the cover, right? Right, just for the cover. I thought it was a cool cover. That's all. Haven't read it. Don't probably won't read it. Don't care. However, back in the day, The Boys, right? The Boys was one thing back in like about 2007, 2008. A shopkeeper friend of mine introduced me to him from in Auckland. It was called Gotham Comics at the time. He was a manager of it. Jeremy Bishop, amazing guy. Amazing guy. He's done so much for New Zealand comics over the last 20 odd years, right? He now sells back issues, right? That's how bad the comic industry is everywhere, but in New Zealand, he sells back issues, right? So I'm able to get my boys' comics that I missed out on back issues off. And I'd rather invest in back issues that'll cost me about $20, $30 an issue or something, depending, you know, than go and buy a modern so-called comic that's out right now. I'd rather spend 2 times the money on it than go and buy a brand new comic for $4. Do you understand? Right? So that's where I'm at with this. Like, you know, I've got stuff that I, you know, from 2000, right? Original from 2000s, right? You know, and so I'm more interested in that and then actually what is out here right now, right? Let me see what else. So here, bought this just for the cover, haven't even read it. It's a one shot, right? That's how much I love Batman, right? Everything behind me is Batman. This is all DC, but like if you look right up, it's all Batman related, all the way from there to there and behind me, right? There's so much here that I don't even have space to put around. You know, there's Funko Pops, there's all these things. I haven't even counted how many there are, or how many Batmans I have, which is kind of weird because, like, I think I'm gonna have to go and do that sometime. But when you invest your time and effort into something you love, you expect it to, you know, expect the people who make it to fulfill their side of the thing, right? Their side of the partnership. If I'm going to just invest in something, I want to get what I expected to get, right? If I pay for something, I expect it. You know, if I buy a Batman comic, I expect a good story, right? But now, like I said, I like the covers, and so I'll spend in the covers. That's the only reason. But on top of that, now the set, you know, I just don't even bother, you know, buying comics altogether. This is someone who spent 35 years spending about $50 odd a week on comics, right? This is, you know, from the 90s when and then took a 5-year break, and in between that time, and then back in 2000 for the last 20 odd years, 30 to 40, $50 a week kind of thing on comics. But now I don't. So, however, I've put that money into something else. Toys, right? In the original characters, not the race swap characters, not the silliness of it all, but actual toys. you know, of those original characters. So you got Hawkeye here, right? Select, and it's got a diorama and everything. You know, it looks really cool. I bought this in May, right? And I had my uncle who lives in Auckland pick it up from, you know, Black Widow, Redhead, right? My uncle go and pick it up. He lives in Auckland, from the seller. Bought it on Trade Me. I don't even remember how much it cost. And because he was going to, you know, buy it for, I mean, he was going to pick it up for me, I thought I'll get more, right? Because then I could save on freight. And so, you know, I got all of these because I know I will get the enjoyment I can get from this by spending $30 on this than on a comic book. 3 comic books, right? That's what it's come down to now. I'd rather spend $30 on a toy that just sits there and looks cool, you know, if I want to pose it as something, than on a comic book that I can read, that I will probably find myself being called a racist or misogynist or a homophobe. So I'd rather put my money where I get something out of it and I feel good afterwards. And I've mentioned this before. It's nothing new that I haven't mentioned before. I want to feel good when I come to entertainment, when I come to pop culture, when I go and see a movie, when I go and see a TV show. I want to feel good when I come out of it. I want to think about things in it, and I want to think about, did I get my money's worth? And was I entertained? Was the person who was telling the story got his message across? The cultures that were represented, they represented well, right? Recently, I saw what was it I just saw? Yeah, The Creator, right? The Creator. Every white dude, apart from one person, I think it was in there, was evil, bad, right? And everybody was going how amazing The Creator was, right? And how cool it looked, and it was amazing. It looked cool. The robots, I love robots. I've just put out a comic book, finished a comic book called Robot Nation. That's how much I love robots, right? And the idea behind AI and stuff. I think of myself, as a futurist. I always question, what would the future be like if there were robots there? What is the end result of all this, right? So I love the idea and the concept, the artwork, the technology, everything behind the Creator, except it was boring as hell. It was like one of the most boring movies around, with lots of bangs and smashes and all this and technology. The Creator didn't pull me in. It made me hate humanity, which meant I'm human, so I hate myself, right? And then it made me hate white people, because all the white people, apart from a friend, right, is all evil people in it, are the villains, right? The female white person's a villain. White male is a villain. White leaders are villains, right? All the extra white people are villains. And it's like, and then also then we're not hard up anti-American. What's new, right? It's like you're telling the same crappy stories that every other thing is telling me on TV, on the, everywhere right now. I thought, well, what would be really cool? What if it was Asia attacking America, and America is the one in love with AIs? Now that's an interesting story, because now you've turned it on the head. It's not the obvious telling of the story, because as a writer and as someone who spent 3 years of my life learning how to be a writer, and I have a degree, a bachelor's degree, right? As a writer, as a film writer, right? Which now I've brought to, of course, to, I was writing even before I went to do my degree, for stage, right? I was writing for stage, doing feature presentations, acting in it, acting in other people's stage productions, and also, doing skits, like 5-minute, like writing 5-minute skits, and then writing a feature skit, right? My first feature production was a sci-fi one, on a planet. So we had a stage, had to design all the costumes, had to design the production set, had to design the language of how people speak, and the lighting and everything, you know, boom, it was amazing, you know, and I had a great cast, had a great, you know, talent, you know, amateur talent behind it. And but like, so I love sci-fi, and so I've always loved sci-fi since I came to New Zealand and watched Star Trek and all that. You know, you could probably see there's somewhere over here is like a bunch of Star Trek thing, and there's a whole friggin' display unit here, right, same size as this one here, full of Star Trek uh, ships and everything. So I love, you know, so I was really looking forward to, you know, the, let me find it here, the creator, right? So I thought that why then, after watching the creator, I feel like so hollow and empty, you know, after watching this very colorful, uh, you know, colorful, interesting looking show that they had spent so much money on. And let me just bring this up here and we can have what, you know, look at it in the background while we think. So you don't have to look at my face continuously. All right. So here we go. Pop it up. Right. So it looks really cool. It's like, well, it's a very good looking, you know, everything about it is really cool. But it's like it's an anti-American, anti-white film about the future, right? And it's just like it's like the it's like Gareth Edwards, right? Who's a director, decided, you know what? How about we make Vietnam a movie about Vietnam, but we put, you know, but we put robots and AI into it, and we make Asians the victims, and people who love AI as the victims, and not worry about how, you know, that you know they're the evil things are, you know, the robots who are, you know, who are battling humanity for survival are not the bad guys. It's actually the humans are the bad guys who are trying to survive this new evolution that they actually created, right? I mean, I don't want always, you know, always like anti AI, um, anti AI, you know, like stories. I don't want anti robot stories because I love nuances, right? You know, I've got a story coming as I'm writing for the second volume of Robot Nation, where it's more about, you know, how, you know, what, how good that could be for us, you know, humanity. And like you look at the idea behind one of my favorite shows, like anime, manga, whatever, movie is Ghost in the Shell, right? And the idea behind it, you could like live forever if your brain is scanned and is placed inside a robot. But then the question is, do you want to live forever? How miserable could it be if you could live forever? You know, like, could, you know, because then you could do whatever and nothing matters. What makes our life, what makes humanity exciting is that there's a limit to our existence. You know, that you know, so when you know, so when you get shown stuff that is like, where, let me find something here and we stop on this really cool looking, you know, uh so yeah, so when you, and I lost my train of thought, apologies for that. But so I love technology. I'm someone who like, you know, enjoys technical stuff. Like, I mean, I appreciate it. Um you know, I think it's just my brain, the way I work, right? I like pulling things apart when I was a kid, you know, so I was pull about everything. How does this work? How does that work? But now I get the amazing job of speculative writing, speculative fiction. You know, you get to write about what the future could hold for us as humanity. You know, we talk about how I could save so much time if I put all my, you know, thousands of pages of stories and novels and scripts and ideas into an AI, a program, and I could say, write a story with this plot line, right? Write a story where this happens, this happens, this happens, at the end this happens, and then in the middle this happens, and these are the characters. And knowing the AI, knowing my nuances, my style of writing, the way I like to my characters behave, or or how I like to let my characters write themselves. A lot of times I don't guide my characters. Like, I kind of like an outline, but if I have a certain character, I don't try to bound it into like, this is the message I want you to tell. I just let it do its thing. I know, like, if you're not a writer, you might not understand that part of things, but there is this thing when you sit down to write, you go, all right, so James is going to do this. Now let James run for it. Right, so you put James in a situation, and James will talk to Maria. Maria will say this. James will go, what is James's response? Not what is my response to that? What would James, as a 40-year-old or 30-year-old guy who was trying to protect Maria, would say in this instance? Is he going to go, it's all right, babe, I'm here, I'm a man, I'll sort it out? Or he's going to say, hun, I understand where we are, what the situation is, but you got to listen to me, and this is going to happen. I don't place myself inside that character. I let the character do its thing. And this is the cool thing about being a writer, which is why I get upset when I feel cheated by race swapping. I feel that race swapping is cheating to advance a ethnicity over another ethnicity without actually giving me any reason why, right? So when you get something like, sorry to hop on, but if you get something like a Century with his own nuances, his own mental health issues, his own, there's so much to the Century, and how, the things, and of course his mentor and so on, as to why that character is where that character was at the time that character was created. So it's got all that little things that happens, right? Like, why was he created in the 2000s at that time and became so popular that it had his own figure, right? And so, but why don't we get, characters who are already ethnic, who are already like Forge, right? One of my favorite all-time X-Men characters, a native Indian, right? Why isn't he being brought into the X-Men yet? Right? Because I reckon they're going to bring in some other character that's already established, that is white, and they'll call him Forge. Because that's the only way they can do things now. Rather than actually have Forge be Forge as a Native American, as the guy who created Cerebro, the computer, right? The X-Men computer, the big, huge mutant finding thing, and their technology, why don't we have Forge already here, right? They talk about the Cerebro and all this thing, but they've never brought him in, even as a little side character. It's like, well, this is him. Why not? Because the only way they see that he would mean anything is he's somebody else. But he'll be an Indian, but playing another role, right? Because that's a shortcut. That's the cheat that they have now. Why can't we have Forge as an amazing character right now coming into X-Men? Because that would take too much thinking for these Hollywood types to understand that people actually want that. We want authenticity when it comes to storytelling. When I was writing The Trouble with Bobo, right, which is set, I actually swapped it around. It was going to be the second story in Robot Nation Volume Number 1, but it's the first story now because my writer friend Michael Berteur last Friday on live and said, I think you should put that story first. And I said, well, but it's a title story. I should have the Robot Nation be in the first. He goes, no, and so overnight, I'd already done the book. Overnight, I went back the next day and I swapped it. I swapped the stories around because there's no double pages in the story, so it was easy to switch it around. Yeah, thanks. Cheers, Maxillian. Yeah, I think. Yeah, so I wrote. I then like I said, I thought overnight. I said, yeah, Mike's right. Mike is a writer. He's an established award-winning horror writer. All right, and he also writes sci-fi. And so I thought, I'll give it a go. Right, and also one of my other friends, Rico, right, who we have on our Friday night show, he said, dude, that panel looks like this. That looks like Maria in this panel, and it doesn't, kind of like might make people think something else, right? So I said, well, you know what? I will change it. So I actually went and put an extra. I said, oh, this is somewhere else, so people don't get confused. Because when it comes out, I don't want people to get confused from my story. I want people to read it well and enjoy it because I put time and effort in it. And my artist worked really hard on it to do a really cool book. So, when you come to read it, I want you to enjoy it for what it is. So in time, when you like this, when you fall in love with these characters, you go, oh yeah, if we expand on those stories on some other level, in the future sometime, whenever, because these are self-contained short stories, so you don't even have to read anything else to enjoy it. Hey, Larry. What's up, brother? So, so when you come to read The Trouble with Bobo, you find out about those characters and you find out who they are as a family. See, I'm not going to have, some weirdness happening with these characters. I want you to enjoy it and go away enjoying it. I don't want you to come back and go, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? I want you to just enjoy the story. And if you enjoy it, then I want you to talk about it. I want you to share it. I want you to be able to say, hey, look, this was a good read. I appreciate the effort you put in. Or you can say, well, yeah, I wish you changed this and stuff, right? Yeah, and this is yeah, that's exactly it, right? I'm the same, right? I would like to see Marvel and DC, Rexillian writes here, come out with completely new stories, narratives, etc., removed from the shared universe. Novelty is incredibly important in pop culture. Exactly. I want uniqueness. I don't want race baiting. I don't want what is it? Gay switching? No, it's gay pandering or gay baiting, right? I don't want that in my stories. If the character is gay, then have him as gay, which is why I'm looking forward to the Midnighter and Apollo, right? And Authority. I think I had Authority here. I pulled it out the other day, right here. This is why I'm looking forward to this, right? This coming out as a and the new DC thing. However, nobody apart from people who read this Wildstorm series, right, will understand, right, or will know who these characters are, right? What they could have done was put and that is unique, right? What they should have done was put a animated movie, right, about Wildstorm, because if you remember a couple of years back, maybe 5 years ago, DC tried to bring Wildstorm in. It didn't work because it's opposite to what's happening in DC Comics. It's exactly the same thing. Same reason why. Where are we? Where'd you go, buddy? So many comics and so many places here. Hold on. Oh, there you are. Right. That's the same reason why this doesn't work, right? This didn't work in DC because it's the opposite of what DC is doing. DC is a PG company, right? Teen plus PG company. So when you talk about hamsters, hamsters going into somebody's, stuff, then kids who are reading that is going to go, ew, I don't like DC Comics anymore. So after the 6 issues, they kicked this book out. And of course, they went to Dynamite, and history, right? did really well at Dynamite, did amazing stuff at Dynamite, right? And gangbusters to a TV show, played by my, you know, by my, you know, Judge Dredd, right? The best, greatest Judge Dredd in history, right? Carl Urban, our very own Carl Urban, right? And, you know, the fact that, you know, Carl Urban's in there, you know, it's a huge thing for us Kiwis, right? I was watching Jay White, you know, Larry would know that Jay White is a New Zealand wrestler on AEW. And I remember who's in WWE who's a female wrestler. I wonder if you're still watching. Naomi, but yeah. So you know, whenever we New Zealanders see our, you know, our people become famous, we celebrate that because we're a very small country, 5 million people, give or take, and so when we see success, we want to, you know, enjoy the success, you know, celebrate the success. And so for us to see that, it's really cool. And so for me to see Carl Urban and being, you know, Butcher, right? I have the Butcher Funkos and all that, you know, and also, you know, Huey and so on, and Frenchie, I think. But it's really, you know, it's really cool. And I like, but it's not making me see the TV series. I know everybody's told me, everybody hands down has told me it's great. But I love the comics too much to have anything in my brain go, they shouldn't have done that. Oh, they shouldn't do that. Because I know in the comics I have this. So I can go from there. So let's have a look at this. Rexelian says, I would like to see, yep, we did that one. Let's go for the next one. Right. Stories with conventional story structure, stories that actually have an and don't just ran on for 60 years. And that's why manga works. Right. And that's why TV shows work. There's an and inside. Right. That's why movies work. Right. Because you have a finite amount of time you can tell. That's why when I'm writing Incredi-Girl, I'm doing 6 issues. Right. I'm putting all I can in there. And then after that, if it works, then what I'll do is I'll go, you know what? People like this, I'll do another story. But I also have other stories to tell as part of the universe. I have a Red Dot, a vigilante that's part of the Plunge universe. I have the Templeton twins who make their appearance in the first issue. And probably, I don't know if they're going to appear again or not, but that's introducing magic, right? I'm introducing cyber people. I'm introducing superhero power people. I'm introducing magical people in the supernatural, right? And because we, you know, we're not going to be around for, you know, 100 years or something, you know. So the thing is, we want to get to the end of a story. We want to, you know, end and, you know, done, right? Like say one and done kind of thing. I want to find out a story about this, and then I can move on to the next one. So I watch a lot of anime, like tons of anime. I think the last 2 days, the only time I ever actually spent a day watching anime, but I watch cartoons, right? Animation. Because I know that I can watch a 12-episode anime, and it will start from one story and it will end. Their story arc will end. And then 6 months down the road, when the writer has finished the second arc, then it will come, and I'm ready for that second arc, right? And then also, you know, you've got something like, you know, One Piece, which is, it still has the arcs, right? They still have the arcs, so you can actually enjoy that. It gets it down and watch that and go, okay, yeah, I've had my fun. I'm going to go watch something else now. However, something like, you know, like what they're going to do with Joker, right? They're going to tell you Joker's story. The mystery of the Joker is going to be explained away in 2022, 24. Next February, January, I just saw something about it from Thinking Critical, that they are going to tell the, you know, explain away the mystery of the Joker. So one of the things that I want to do for the Plunge universe is never explain the mystery of one of the characters, right? One of the main characters. I wanted to just keep the origin mysterious. Tell you bit of pieces here and there, because is he or isn't he, is she or isn't she? Because at least there's some mystery to it. Because why else would you want to read something if there is nothing enticing about it? If you explain away everything, you get bored, right? So Rexilin says here, imagine Marvel and DC and all their resources and talent adapt a creative policy like Image, trying out new properties and genres. It might just save the industry. 100%, dude. But I'm going to say, well, screw Marvel DC, right? They've burned their fans, right? They've literally burned interest in their product. So like this, by people like this, right? I should have put this a bit different. Let me, like this. They've got people like this working for them, right? So if you got people like this working for them, every time they fail, they burn the audience. They burn the fans. They burn the ones that might give them a chance. So I go, well, burn them back. Don't waste your money on them. Don't waste your time watching it. Turn to indie comics, right? Give us a chance. Give my bro a chance. Give my friends a chance. Give Niobe, right? We had Niobe turn up just before. Give him a chance, right? Where did I just have the book here? Like when my friend's comic, this one here, when this comes out, right? Give him a chance because he's not trying to burn you, right? Shane isn't trying to burn you on this book. He wants you to read the book. If you like it, buy the next one. Tell people about it. That's all we ask of you in comic, fandom, right? As a reader, as a fan of comics, of this medium, this sequential art, right? That's all we ask. Give us a try. Because at the end of the day, we are trying not to burn you. You won't have us say these horrible things about you as a fan. We won't call you violent and racist and sexist and homophobic. We won't, because that does us nothing for us. That doesn't make you like us. That doesn't make you enjoy what we're doing. Because then it comes to the part where you got to separate the art from the artist. But I don't want that. I want you to enjoy what I write and come back for my next book and come back for my next book and come and support my artists, support their work. Because if I don't do good stuff, if I don't spend all my energy in promoting my artists and promoting our books and asking you to support it, then I'm not supportive of my own work. And I'm not, I want you to enjoy what I write, what I create. When I say I made a mistake and now I've corrected my mistake, I want you to understand why I'm created, why I fixed the mistake I made, why I accepted responsibility for the mistake I made. With like I said about with the Incredi-Girl, putting out a web comic instead of actually putting out a proper, full color, decent superhero comic first, rather than putting out the web comic first and wasting money on it in print. So, I'm not going to race change my characters because I already have characters of those races, right? I already have an Indian character. I already have an Asian character. I already have a white character. I already have, whatever character that story called for, I already have it. So I want you to enjoy what we bring to the table as an independent creator. It's tough for us, right? Because when 99% of the money is going to people like this, right, who hate fans, right, who despise the very people that they want to buy their product, I'd rather say, well, don't go to them, right? Yeah, you're right. Like, it's pretty basic, right? Don't insult your audience. You're going to have a bad time. 100%. 100%. And that's where you got $300 million lost minimum on this project. Man, I can't imagine what I would be able to do just with 1 million. Every project I have right now that's sitting on my desktop, every single file I'll be able to have made. I'll be able to have afford top level comic book artists and creators. Not that, not that we don't have that, but I would have top level artists and creators right now working on that. And, all my creators right now will be fully paid up front. I'll be, I would dominate the market right now if I had not even, a million, 250,000 right now. I'll be able to just boom, every product. You'd have an Incredi-Girl, you'd have an Incredi-Girl figurine, right? Action figure. You'd be like boom, 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 boom. And you know what? It'll all triple its return, because I'll be here going, I want your custom. I want your support. You won't hear me call you names. You won't hear me put you down. If you have a different opinion, you're entitled to it, because that's your opinion, just like it's my opinion, whatever. So resilience, it's appreciated, because we are the ones who are going to spend money on this, and I want to make money, right? I want to sell the work that I've created and I've spent creating with my friends on these works, with my artists, with my colorists, with my penciler, right? With my publisher, with my print, because when I put one comic out, when one comic goes out, there are so many people involved, and so many people earn a living off a single comic book, right? You've got a writer, if it's successful, right? You got a writer, you got an artist, you've got a penciler, inker, depending if you have the same person. You got a designer, I design all my work, right? And a letterer, I letter all my work. Then you got a colorist. So on a single issue of Incredi-Girl, right? You have me, you have Kevin, you have Hugo. So Kevin's from America, Hugo's from Mexico. Then you have Hawk, who ran our, who did put together our crowdfunding project. I mean, I helped with that, and we promoted all that together, but he did a lot of the behind the work scenes, right? But also he put together the package to go to the, I put it, get by the package, I mean, like, he got all the printers from New York, from overseas, from China, whatever, to try to get a good deal on the book, so we could afford to actually put out a book that we only made $1,800 on, right? Is it 1,800? Yeah, 118 US, $1,180 in US, right? Which doesn't even cover the art, right? Doesn't even cover my own, just covers the printing of that, right? So the time we spent on this book was an entire year, months and months on a single book. So that's four people involved in the creation of it, right? And promotion and all that. However, then you got the printers, right? They print a book, then they earn a bit of it, right? They get their wages paid from that, right? Then the shipping people, right? We ship it out, the postie gets the money from it, right? And so on. So when we put one comic out, we put so much effort into it, because we want it to be we want it to be successful. We want people to enjoy it and read it, right? Just like, anybody else out here in the indie comic scene. That's why I spend a lot of time, promoting indie comics, because I know how much time and effort it takes for any one of us out here to create a single comic book, right? How hard it is to compete with people like Marvel and DC, who have a multi-billion-dollar, economy behind them, right? But we don't have that. It's just us on our own trying to get a book out. So that's why we appreciate whatever time anybody shares what we do out there. Anybody who likes or subscribes or whatever to our, to what we're doing.